Hurricane Sandy will cause major impacts along the East Coast. I am David Witten with a look at what you can expect. We'll take a look at the latest temperatures, and currently we are warming up into the lower 60s at this hour. And as we head into this afternoon, I do expect some peaks of sun, which will cause temperatures to climb up into the mid-70s. We'll take a look at the latest national radar and satellite, and you can see that here's our cold front developing out in the Ohio Valley at this hour with showers and thunderstorms. But now let's take a look at the tropics, and we'll take a look at Hurricane Sandy. And you can see that Hurricane Sandy is currently a hurricane at this hour. It has winds at 80 miles per hour. It's a Category 1 hurricane, and it's moving off to the northeast at about 13 miles an hour. But we'll talk about the storm track now, and notice how the National Hurricane Center takes the storm to the northeast over the weekend, and by Tuesday morning it has landfall around Delmarva. And if this happens, this would be the worst case scenario, as we would see a storm surge come up the Chesapeake Bay, which would cause an enormous amount of flooding and damage along the coastal areas right into the city of Philadelphia. So this is certainly something that we do not want to see, as this is the worst case scenario. And based on the latest forecasting models, I do think somewhere along Delaware, maybe the southern tip of it towards Maryland, we'll see the landfall. But I also cannot rule out southern parts of New Jersey, as there is still a chance the storm could come a little more north, and the exact track will depend on who gets the worst impacts of the storm. We'll take a look at the latest surface map, and you can see that we do have some drizzle in our region this morning, but high pressure is in control to our northeast and will cause things to clear out as we head into this afternoon. But here's a cold front developing out in the Midwest, and here's Hurricane Sandy down in the Atlantic Ocean. We'll take a look at the futurecast, and as we head through this weekend, the cold front and Hurricane Sandy will continue to combine together and become one enormous storm. And as Hurricane Sandy makes landfall as a Category 1 hurricane, I do expect once it's on land that the storm will start to lose its tropical characteristics, become a hybrid type storm. And what will happen is, instead of the strongest winds being around the center of low pressure, the wind field will expand, and some of your strongest winds will be in the outer bands. And the reason why that happens is you have high pressure to the north and low pressure to the south, and where you have the strongest pressure gradient, that's where you experience some of the strongest winds, as the storm will interact with the Arctic air mass. We'll take a look at your 7-day forecast, and today will be partly cloudy with a high of 72 and a low of 54. Saturday, expect increasing clouds in the afternoon with a high of 69 and a low of 52. Sunday, expect rain to move in the afternoon with a cold front with a high of 54 and a low of 48. Monday is when I'm expecting the worst part of the storm, with some very heavy rainfall as well as wind with a high of 52 and a low of 40. Tuesday, expect more rain into the afternoon before the storm tapers off with a high of 48 and a low of 37. Wednesday, we could have a few lingering showers with partly cloudy skies with a high of 49 and a low of 38. And Thursday will be partly cloudy with a high of 50 and a low of 39. Now, as far as what I'm expecting with the storm, a widespread 5 to 10 inches can be expected. And depending on where the heaviest rain band set up, some localized areas could pick up in addition to that. But in general, I am expecting for most people that we will see a widespread 5 to 10 inches. Now, as far as the storm surge, this is going to be the biggest story, because this is going to set records along the coastal areas, and I'm expecting a storm surge of 15 to 20 feet. And depend on the track of the storm, some areas could see even more than that. So this is certainly going to cause major damage to the coastal areas, which will be the biggest story of the storm. Now, as far as the winds, I'm expecting sustained winds between 40 to 50 miles per hour, which are tropical storm force, but wind gusts will approach hurricane force between 60 to 70 miles per hour. And I would not be surprised if there are some isolated reports of hurricane force wind gusts which are above 74 miles per hour. And lastly, there could be an isolated tornado threat, especially on the east side of the storm, and that will all depend on the track of the storm. Now, as far as the storm impacts, river, stream, and creek flooding will be very likely, and certainly going to cause major concern for houses and businesses that are below flood stage, as this could cause an enormous amount of damage. Also, I do expect on Monday and Tuesday we're going to have major travel issues. Roads will be closed below flood stage. So flooding is going to be a very big issue. Also, as I was talking about before, beach erosion will probably be the biggest story. The beaches are going to be completely destroyed with this storm, with those high tides. And when you have a full moon, that is only going to enhance the high tides even more and cause them to be even larger. which is why I'm saying isolated areas could see more than 20 feet because you do have that full moon, and when you have a big storm, those two certainly do not go together because of the high tides. Now, in addition to that, downed tree limbs and branches can be expected, which will cause widespread power outages. And depending on who gets the worst part of the storm, the worst impact areas could expect to see power out for a few days. So that's all going to depend on where the storm tracks and on who sees the worst effects. But certainly in general, widespread power outages can be expected. Now, for my latest continuous updates throughout this weekend, make sure to follow me on WX Witten on Twitter, as I will be, or it will be my pleasure to keep you updated on the storm with the latest storm coverage, as well as with the latest up-to-date information, a complete breakdown of what you can expect, my latest forecast, and I will certainly pass the latest watches and warnings on as needed. That is all for today. For iBlock News, I'm Dave Witten, and make sure to stay safe throughout this storm because it's going to be a big one.